Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Let me start by apologizing for not being there with you in presence, but I'll do my best to make my presentation as engaging as possible anyway. This is the second time for me to be a host in this important program, and I would like to thanks the La Sapienza University for this opportunity and to give my best greetings to the regional commander in Venice, General Rapanotti. And also to thank my dear colleague Fabio D'Ametto for mentioning the Nucleo Speciale and for giving an extraordinary introduction to my presentation. My speech will focus on describing the purposes and the composition of the checklist developed by the Guardia di Finanza in order to support the risk analysis carried out by the central administrations and the implementing bodies responsible for the NRP, which is considered as a valuable tool for guiding decision and determining the need for further investigations. The methodological approach follows the guidelines outlined in the programmatic document on anti-fraud strategy for the NRP, published by the General Accounting Office of the State, and are fully consistent with the anomaly indicators periodically updated by the Italian Financial Intelligence Unit. And I must remark that the FIU provides these indicators to financial intermediaries to guide and standardize their assessments regarding the possibility of reporting suspicious transactions. It is appropriate to start by saying that unique case in Europe, the Italian government designated the law enforcement corps as the Guardia di Finanza as point of reference for all the central administrations responsible for the NRP in order to help them to develop risk analysis paths. Thanks to this, the Guardia di Finanza participates the operational board called Anti-Fraud Representatives Net, and is allowed to enter the operational database called REGIS, which contains information on all the European grants connected to the NRP. That is why on December the 17th, 2021, the Guardia di Finanza and the General Accounting Office of the State signed a memorandum of understanding to regulate the role of the Guardia di Finanza in safeguarding the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. All central administrations responsible for the NRP have gradually adhered to this memorandum. This is the environment where the anti-fraud network has requested support from the Guardia di Finanza to assess fraud risk for central administrations. And first, as a preliminary contribution, the department I belong to has developed a hand guide that provides a concise and explanatory overview of the main risk indicators. After this, the checklist has been implemented as a natural development of the hand guide and are a summary and descriptive framework of potential fraud risk indicators. They are based on the investigative experience of the Guardia di Finanza that aim at guiding initial assessments of irregularities. In fact, according to the guidelines of national anti-fraud strategies from the European Anti-Fraud Office, an effective anti-fraud policy begins with a preliminary risk assessment. This helps to identify and expose irregularities, allowing the appropriate protective action to be taken. Therefore, it is strategically important to implement shared and easily usable tools for identifying and managing abnormal conditions and behaviors that may occur at any stage of the plan's implementation. The checklists consider the various ways that resources are used. Therefore, there are two checklists available. The first one is for distributing grants, and the second is for procurement procedures. This last is being divided in two sections. The first section captures entries related to the subjective profile of economic operators. And the second section summarizes indices concerning objective profiles. The text provides explanatory notes and it also includes information on relevant databases to extract additional information as necessary. Today, there are 74 identified risk indicators, of which I will provide an overview focusing on those that are particularly significant by way of example. And obviously, I will not describe and explain each single indicator. For further details, the checklists are available on the dedicated internet website. So, let's start with the case of public grants, about which the risk indicators are being grouped into four categories: business life cycle, company structure, management aspects, and corporate communication. There is also a fifth residual category, which groups together general indicators on the reliability of the company and the credibility of the initiative. In total, there are 31 possible anomaly indicators. The risk indicators related to the business life cycle focus on specific situations which may appear to be aimed at establishing the formal and only formal conditions to access the public grants. Some examples can be identified in the change of the type of economic activity or in the execution of extraordinary operations or corporate restructuring precisely in proximity to accessing the grant. The five indicators related to the company's structure highlight elements such as the possibility that the economic entity is administered or its holdings are owned by individuals who are either particularly young or elderly, which could then turn out to be so-called frontmen or figureheads. Please focus attention on individuals aged under 25 or over 75 and situations that raise doubts about their economic or professional capacities. In this case, it will also be necessary to verify whether other companies belonging to the same person have received or applied for different public funds. It may be helpful to examine the replaced person's subjective profile just to verify if their replacement is not due to an absence of requirements for contracting with the public administration. Moreover, we identified risk indicators concerning management methods that focused on 6 anomaly indicators, such as increasing share capital just before requesting access to the measure. In fact, these increases may aim to simulate the company's reliability and reassure about its prospective ability to repay financing. This is especially true for those resolved with the contribution of intangible assets. Regarding corporate communication, it refers to the methods used by an economic entity to present itself and provide information to the public. Risk indicators may include the absence of information on the internet, or social media, such as failure to submit financial statements within prescribed deadlines, particularly while seeking the grants. It is important to pay attention to the printing layout of produced documentation, such as financial statements, deposit receipts, or affidavits. It may not conform exactly to the commonly encountered layout. And in fact, the first cases of completely false documents prepared only to complete access requests for benefits have already been intercepted. The potential use of powers of attorney to manage, administer, or transfer assets is also significant. This is especially true if they are issued shortly after the company has received public resources. The company's management may be under suspicion of being run by de facto administrators or engaging in activities that could result in the illegal diversion of recently acquired public funds. Finally, the section on the subject's reliability and credibility includes risk indicators aimed at highlighting possible anomalies related to the company's or its representatives' reputational profile or the methods of submitting the access request. The presence of companies with the same legal representative or one or more common partners or administrators traceable to the same ultimate owner or connected individuals could lead to the hypothesis of a single orchestrator for the misappropriation of the resources. And regarding the sector of public contracts, purchase of goods and provision of services, 42 indicators have been developed. In this case, the indices already described for incentives remain valid, but it has been necessary to supplement them with specific items related to the peculiarities of tenders and current regulatory provisions. In particular, reference is being made to the objective aspects related to the submission of bids, the context in which the tender takes place, and the contract execution phase. Trying to be synthetic, I would like to focus your attention on some peculiar revealing indicators. For example, the submission of bids by different companies with coinciding registered offices or local units, or located in contiguous areas, especially if the submission occur in close proximity and near to the deadline of the tender. Or, for other example, if the communications of companies that appear unrelated each other come from the same delegated entity or address, also IP address. Or on if the graphics and the characters used in their respective documents are similar. Or finally, if you verify the presence within the communication of the submitted documentation of common elements, such as the telephone and fax numbers, IP number, addresses, and so on. Or if the same external professional figures who assist or coordinate the bidding companies are recurring. I don't think you're actually in need of a systematic recognition of all the single risk indicators, and it would be a very hard job. What I really wish to share is that the checklists can prove to be an effective tool in the overall anti-fraud effort through the so-called fraud prevention cycle. Of course, prevention, but also detection, investigation, and adoption of corrective actions. And this, what I'm saying, is not just a theoretical hypothesis, but it is a daily experience. In fact, as my colleagues said above, the timely dialogue with implementing bodies has recently made it possible to obtain information that has led to a significant investigative activity articulated in several lines of inquiry. In particular, it was found that certain de facto companies, which were never in operation, filed financial statements and official accounting documents for several years within a few days, according to a well-defined and prearranged scheme, and just before submitting the application for access to the incentives. These feelings included false entries and untrue information, but were nevertheless suitable to meet the requirements for access to the grant. The false accounting documents sometimes even include certificates of filling with the relevant authorities, such as the Chamber of Commerce. From this first investigative experience, which is still ongoing, the potential fraud mechanism was being extrapolated, and the Guardia di Finanza has communicated and shared it to the implementing entity concerned in order to make it able to adopt the proper countermeasures. It has also been included among the risk indicators in the checklist, including certain anomaly criteria. And this is exactly what we are working towards. Ensure that the experience gained during operation is used to improve the prevention system, which is also one of the reasons why the Guardia di Finanza is involved in the anti-fraud network. In this respect, many proposals have already been submitted to the public administrations. These proposals are aimed in particular at identifying and tracking the behaviors of fraud networks, such as companies that commit frauds by organizing hidden tax havens. For traceability, for example, it has been suggested that supply agencies should collect data and information from applicants in a digital and structured format from the very beginning of the application submission phase. In fact, even if not strictly necessary for the disbursements process, this may be useful for risk assessment by the public administration and for the eventual subsequent analytical and investigative phase. For example, it may contain full identification of the winners or recipients, name, VAT number, tax code of legal representatives, and the ultimate owner, amount of the incentive, date of application, the IP address from which the application originated, and many other structured information. Furthermore, in relation to the above, public administration and implementing entities may make an additional effort to make themselves able to check and verify the data provided by the applicants during the implementing phase. For example, they may encourage protocol agreements with bodies that hold official documents produced or self-certified by the applicants. This could allow rapid verification of the accuracy of some or all the information provided by the applicants. Or they may provide tools, including digital ones, to identify any subjective and objective patterns or recurrences between requests that appear to be absolutely unrelated. Or they may establish an information exchange channel among all public administrations and implementing bodies, allowing the immediate sharing of alerts on one or more specific topics. And now I will conclude my speech, from which I hope the usefulness of a continuous virtuous path, work in progress, has emerged, with the ambition of transforming ideas into concrete initiatives in order to ensure an effective and systematic and shared action of prevention, detection, and opposition to any type of irregularity, more or less serious, in the implementation on the NRRP. And I thank you for your kind attention.